Hello everyone, and as some of you may know, if all is well, I should be in China right now. But because Luis told me that I won't get the 5 points if I don't attend my own seminar, I decided to be here through time and space. So this video is going to be about intercultural negotiations, and I'm sure my fabulous colleagues have already given you a good little tour into the world of negotiations, but now let's go a bit further beyond. So when it comes to cross-cultural negotiations, first you have to find out what is accepted and familiar. And the first step is, of course, to do a simple Google search. Not only about the nationality of the opposing party, but about company culture and personal culture as well. So, for example, if I know I'm going to be meeting a young American game developer, the attitude towards this person is going to be completely different from meeting an older gentleman from Japan who runs a hedge fund or something. But regardless of the culture, it's still better to start too formally than too informally, so you're not going to insult anyone. And then if the opposing party is going to be informal with you, you can also be a bit more informal with them. But of course, this can depend also, like in the Japanese culture, a senior might be a bit informal with you, and then you still have to address them by their surname and be very formal. Like how formal you have to be depends a lot on different factors, and there is really no right answer. But like for example, in Germany or Japan, you have to be quite formal. I think it was Kai who told me that in Germany it's pretty normal that you have like the doctor on the passport or ID. And as such, also when you are doing business negotiations, you should address people by their titles and then last name. And in Japan as well, it can be seen very insulting if you call someone by their first name, unless if you are like best bros. And then on the other hand, if we go to America or Spanish-speaking countries, like it can be pretty easy to get on the first name basis. Like, of course, you shouldn't start out as addressing someone by their first name immediately, unless if they specifically ask you to. But once you've talked to them a few times or for a few minutes, in some cases, it's already fine to call them by their first name. And directness as well depends on culture. Like Americans are very direct in business negotiations normally. And then, for example, in Asia, they are very indirect. So you have to read like social cues. Like, for example, if you are telling them something like an idea, they might not say instantly that they don't like it, but they might be like, but what if we did this instead or something? So you have to read more between the lines. Also remember that people very much appreciate if you know their culture, or even if you try and fail. I think it's still seen as a positive thing, because of course they know that you cannot master their culture in a night or a day. And then on the other hand, if another person is being somehow rude to you, for example, he doesn't look you in the eyes, it can just be cultural differences and they're actually not being rude at all. So you have to keep this in mind always, not to take anything too badly. Like for example, in Asian cultures, looking someone directly into the eyes is seen kind of disrespectful. And on the other hand, in Nordic cultures and in America, it's a sign of trustworthiness. Also, like the concept of personal space can vary a lot depending on the culture. So I think a good rule of thumb is if no one is going to touch you, you shouldn't touch them first. Of course, except maybe offering the handshake. I mean, I think handshake at this point is quite universal, but that can also depend. Like if you are going to handshake a person from Japan or China, it's normally customary to do a little bow and then have a very limp handshake. Like for example, in America or something, a handshake. Or for me, I think as well, if someone like limply shakes my hand, I see it kind of as a sign of weakness, but it's very cultural. So even in these kind of really common things that are universal, there can be differences. Also, you have to manage your expectations. Like if you meet with an American or Spanish person, then it's pretty normal that you might even close the deal after one meeting. Whereas more east you go, the longer it's going to take. So people might seem reluctant, for example, like they don't want to do business with you, but actually they're just taking it more slowly, and you have to then of course take it more slowly as well, because if you try to rush them, that can be seen as untrustworthy. So I have some very fun statistics here, and one statistic says that, or one questionnaire, I guess what this guy's posted out says that 74% of Spanish people expect to make the contract on the first meeting, and on the other hand, 33% of Indians do. So this is actually a huge difference. And on the other hand, 33 and on the other hand, 33% of Spanish negotiation and on the other hand, 33% of Spanish negotiators, negociators, negociationers, negociationers, 33% of the Spanish approach negotiations with the kind of mentality that it's going to be a win-win situation, 33%, whereas in Japanese culture it's 100%. So I don't really see. I just thought that was very interesting because it's like, I don't know, it seems like the Spanish people are trying to screw you over and the Japanese not. And there's team organization, like sometimes there can be situations where the American business firm brings like 3 people and they have this leader that basically does all the talking, and then a Chinese or Japanese company could bring in like 10 people and in which they are all kind of equals and negotiating. So don't kind of do the mistake that you are just going to talk to one person at a time, but just rather to everyone, unless if there is a clear leader. I think the most important thing is building trust. I mean, there's always this personal relationship versus business relationship, and I think it's better that more personal you kind of make it, so you actually have a connection and you like each other. And in some cases it can matter a lot. Like if you are doing business with Saudi Arabia, if they don't like you, they might sign a contract and then they just break the contract, because how are you going to sue them in Saudi court? It's not going to happen. And they are very, very heavily like towards the personal relationship and trust oriented rather than business is just business, right? Since we have an international class, I think we have a unique opportunity to hear from each other how business negotiations are done in their respective countries. And if there is too much time, please share your insight on any other countries you might have information from. You have 5 minutes. Good luck. Good job, everyone. I was not there, but I'm certain that the discussion was very informative. And to conclude this video, I have an example that happened to myself not too long ago regarding the formal informal thing. And I had forgotten a password to one of my old accounts, and the recovery email was in my ex-job's email that I don't have anymore because I don't work there anymore. So I had to email my old boss about it and ask to get the email to function once again for a few hours at least, so I can just recover the password. And I wrote him this very formal email asking him about it, and he answered me really fast, and his answer was like extremely informal, kind of like, hey man, how are you doing? I hope you're really great. I'm doing good. And I didn't even like basically ask him how is he. So I felt very stupid because of that, but it's kind of obvious when you think about it in hindsight, because he's someone I used to be kind of friends with in the past, even though I was like 5 or 6 years ago. And in the gaming culture, people are very informal with each other, and it's a young guy as well from Sweden, and I kind of felt like a fool for writing him such a formal email. So don't feel like a fool and think before you negotiate or email. But that was it for me, and I hope you guys found this video helpful, and my colleagues are gonna take it from here.